sudden victory decision over Casey Swiderski of Oklahoma State in the quarterfinals as we get underway here in this semifinal bout. Van Ness got that takedown with just 1 second left in the sudden victory period. Lamer gets in here on the legs of Van Ness. Has the right leg. Van Ness circles around and keeps that left leg away, and will come back to the center of the mat as they go off the edge, still neutral and scoreless here at 149. In the other semifinal bout, Lachlan McNeil, the Ontario native from Toronto for Michigan, taking on Aiden Valencia of Stanford. Van Ness now in on the left leg, drives through and gets the takedown. Shayne Van Ness takes a 3-0 lead here on mat 3. Van Ness trying to bring Lamer over to his back. Lamer sits out. Van Ness applying pressure, comes out in front, tried to throw the headlock in. He still has the far elbow, trying to crank Lamer over, and Lamer rolls through and gets back to his chest. Van Ness coming back under the chin here. Now comes out to the right side. Cody Sanderson, Nick Lee, and trainer Dan Monthly in the corner here for Van Ness as he works up under the arm here on the right side of Lamer. Lamer gets the hips free. Now turning back in on the right side is Van Ness, and again he's trying to crank Lamer over. Again, Lamer fights him off and gets back to his chest. We hit the midway point of the opening period. Van Ness leading 3-0. Riding time advantage building up toward a minute here for Van Ness as he continues to ride out on the right side, and Van Ness goes over a minute now in riding time advantage. Get the action stopped here down on mat 4. They're down to under 20 seconds remaining in the first period there. Van Ness again trying to catch Lamer. He's nearly turned him here about 4 or 5 times, but he's been unable to get him over so far. Van Ness really working though, back on top here, trying to get a turning combination again on Lamer. Lamer bellied out, not much movement underneath here for Chance Lamer as Van Ness is really working in this top position. There's the stall warning against Lamer. You could kind of feel that one coming. Under 40 seconds left here in the opening period. Van Ness again trying to bring him over, and Lamer again fighting him off. 2-on-1 here for Van Ness on that right side. And Van Ness now gives up on that hold. And again, he still has Lamer bellied out here at the left edge with 20 seconds left in the opening period. 3-0 the lead for Van Ness. He's over 2 minutes in riding time advantage now. And he has Lamer bellied out right at the left edge. And looking to ride out the period, and it looks like Shayne Van Ness will do exactly that. Shayne Van Ness goes to the second period, leading 3-0. He has 2:18 in riding time advantage. Van Ness has the choice and will take bottom to start the second period. They'll go to the second period with no score in the McNeil of Michigan, Valencia of Stanford semifinal bout at 149 on mat 4. Here comes Van Ness quickly to his feet. He's out for the escape. The lead is 4-0 for Van Ness. Van Ness pulling in on the head here of Lamer. He shoots in, has the right knee, driving through to a double. Takedown Van Ness on the far side of the mat. Shayne Van Ness opens up a 7-0 advantage. Van Ness now with a spiral ride. Breaks Lamer down. He has him bellied out in the center of the mat with 1:30 left to wrestle here in period 2. Riding time advantage up over 2.5 minutes now for Van Ness. Looking to join Luke Lillidahl in the finals tomorrow night. Van Ness trying to pull him over and trying to roll out of there is Lamer. He gets the hips out and does get away on the second effort for the escape. It's a 7-1 lead for Van Ness. 1 minute left to wrestle here in period 2. Van Ness trying to get back on his offense. Lamer now pulling in on the head of Van Ness, trying to see if he can get something going. Van Ness tried to get in on the right leg. Lamer kicks away. Now Van Ness back in on the attack, pulling in on the head. Lamer drops in, trying to get in on the legs. Van Ness counters, And a nice reshot here will come in on the right side, trying to get in behind Lamer. Now he takes Lamer to his back, and Van Ness is going to settle in here. Van Ness gets the takedown. He's going to get the near fall points. Can he get the pin? No, Lamer able to fight him off as they go off that far edge. So we do get the takedown and 4 near fall points for Van Ness. The lead is 14-1 with 26 seconds left in period 2. We get a takedown here for Aiden Valencia of Stanford, and he now leads Lachlan McNeil of Michigan 3-1 with 40 seconds left in the second period. Van Ness goes to work here out on the left side, now coming over to the right side with his hips. Lamer working from his knees, not able to get anything going here underneath, and now Van Ness breaks him down. He has him bellied out right in the center of the mat. Van Ness trying to come under the chin, looking for the far elbow as the period ends. We'll go to the third. Van Ness solidly in control. It's 15-1. The official says you can go at it. We'll start the third period neutral. Van Ness leading 15-1. Van Ness pulling on the head. He also has 3:21 in riding time advantage. He drops into the right leg. He takes Lamer toward his back. Van Ness trying to get him over. And Lamer rolls through and gets to his chest. So we will get another 7-point throw there for Van Ness. It'll be a 22-1 technical fall for Shayne Van Ness. Time of the tech fall is 5:21, and Shayne Van Ness will wrestle for the national title at 149 tomorrow night.